No, you're not alone, 'cause I'm gonna make this place yours.
Welcome to Good News with your host, Angela Savage. For the next hour, Angela will guide you on the road to happiness while describing her own journey with the help of friends and family of her father, championship racer Swede Savage. Phone lines are open at 702-483-4444. Once again, that's 702-483-4444. Or you can stream us online at vegasallnetradio.com. And now, let's start on the path of happiness together. Here's your host, Angela Savage.
Good morning and welcome to Good News with Angela Savage on Vegas All Net Radio. Happy Monday. I want to talk just a tiny bit about anger. There is so much anger in the world today. We've all got to step up and try and change this a little bit. We really need to remember to hold our peace and walk in love so that we can be led by the Holy Spirit. We can't let ourselves become easily offended because offense turns into anger, and anger turns into a really hard root to pull once you get it deep down inside of you. We need to remember that we will not be punished for our anger, but we will be punished by our anger. So, just living in that state, where you're upset all the time, stressed, it's not going to get you anywhere, and the Holy Spirit can't get in your life to bless you. Never put your light under a bushel just so that you don't offend people who are living in darkness. And that's going to happen a lot. People aren't going to like you when you're too happy, and they're not. But I personally, I fight. I work very hard for my happiness, and I think it's our job to make ourselves happy so we can show other people how to be happy. We need to stop being so hard on each other. And that's all I have to say about that for now. We have a very exciting guest today. I'm so excited, Stephan Gregoire. Stephan Gregoire raced in the Indianapolis 500 7 times between 1993 and 2006. He was the fastest rookie qualifier in 1993 and the 7th fastest qualifier overall. His rookie class that year included Formula One world champions Nigel Mansell and Nelson Piquet, Stefan Johansson, and Robbie Gordon. He was just under 50 starts in IndyCar racing from 1993 through 2006 with a best finish of second to Tony Stewart at the IRL race at Pikes Peak International Raceway in 1997. Stephan's last IndyCar race was the 2006 Indianapolis 500. By then he had already transitioned his career to sports car and endurance racing. He finished 4th out of 25 cars in the GT class in the 12 Hours of Sebring in 2003, and later that year finished 7th overall out of 50 cars in the first of his 4 24 Hours of Le Mans races. In his last professional race at Le Mans in 2010, he finished 2nd in the GT1 class driving a Corvette. For some time, Stephan had been thinking about creating a driving school at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Along with business partner Ted Warner, they were able to launch Miles Ahead in late 2011. Miles Ahead will begin its 5th year of operation at IMS this year and is introducing an innovative new motorsports entertainment activity there called the Miles Ahead Hypercross, which we'll learn about more shortly. Welcome to the show, Stephan.
Hello, Angela. Thank you very much for having me.
Woo, it's so glad to have you. We're doing a little audience applause for you because we are thrilled to have you on the air. I thought that would be fun. I have lots of great questions for you. You want to get started?
Absolutely, Angela. Yes, that would be great.
Oh, good. Let's see. How did you first get started racing in France?
Well, that's a great question, especially since I don't have any. My family, I should say, doesn't have any background at all in racing. But long story short, I started because of my dad. My dad was a big fan of racing and cars in general, really. Still is, by the way. He loves cars. And anyway, my family had a butcher shop, so nothing to do with cars. And I grew up in this little butcher shop, and like I said, my dad loved cars, and anyways, when I was very young, probably I would say 8, 9 years old, he would let me drive the car regularly. You have to remember, I'm from a small town,
Right.
and so it was easy to drive on the roads and things like, especially back then there was not so much traffic like we do today, and so I would start driving at 8 years old with my dad, and then I put a pillow under me, make sure I could see the road, and so just to show you that my dad really wanted me to drive. I don't know exactly why, but then I enjoyed it. I loved it, and so every time we do a trip, I go and boom and get in the driver's seat, and I'm the driver at 9, 10, 11 years old, whatever it was. And
Wow.
one day, my dad shows up with a go-kart. I was about 13 years old, and he didn't say anything. He didn't tell me that he was going to buy a go-kart. He never had a conversation about that. And so that's typical my dad. And he comes with the go-kart, and we don't know anything about go-karts. We didn't even know how to start the go-kart. So that's basically how I, started my racing career. Angela, we entered a race, a go-kart race, not very far from where I'm from, in the northeast of France, and I won the first race. So you can imagine the excitement.
Oh my gosh. Your dad must have really saw something in you that you before you did, it sounds like.
I
Maybe
guess.
maybe he just, that was his dream and he saw that you could pull it off, and look what you've done with your career. Oh my gosh, your father must be so over the moon with all of your wonderful accomplishments.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Angela. For sure, yes. My dad, yeah, definitely. He wanted to drive himself. Like I said, I mean, passion came from him. My grandparents didn't have any interest. My grandfather never had any interest. So yeah, I guess my dad, since he could not do it himself, I guess he wanted. I was the first child. My brother is younger than me, so that's probably why
Yeah.
I ended up being the one to drive. Otherwise, probably my brother would have been the one. So who knows? But yeah, I mean, it's quite amazing. You never know in life, and to race, and I mean, of course, I always wanted to make a career out of it.
Yes.
And you know how difficult that is, and I feel very fortunate to have done what I've done. Even though my goals were bigger than what I did, I still feel extremely fortunate that I was actually able to make a living driving a car. That's quite amazing to me.
It is quite amazing. It's so important to not be bummed out about the goals that you didn't actually get to, and really remember what you did do. Just a handful of people on the planet get to do what you did. And so I believe in order for anyone to get on that track, the stars really have to align for them. So that's what happened for you. Stars aligned, and you really killed it out there.
I agree, Angela. It's like sometimes you work very hard to get a goal, and sometimes you overdo it, and But in my case, I have to say it's quite amazing. I never thought when I was a child that I would actually end up living in the USA. I mean, the USA was a kind of a dream country. I was watching, as a kid, little movie series like Starkey and Hutchie, and
Yeah.
all those movies that
Yeah, oh
everybody
yeah.
was watching. I'm sure here as well. And America was kind of always was like a country that we admired,
Yeah.
especially as a young person. And I mean, and now I'm here living in America. If somebody had told me that back then, and I definitely would not have believed it.
I think it's important to mention that when you did come, you were only 20 years old, and
Yeah.
and you spoke no English. So
You're right.
not
Actually, that's
only
true.
were you this young, new guy, you didn't speak any English, and you're trying to fit in with all these, people that have been around the track forever. That must have been extremely challenging for you, but you pushed through it, got your English down, and you made a real name for yourself. It's nothing to take lightly. You're a superstar. Also, I want to say that there's something about, it doesn't matter how old you get, making your father proud, dead or alive, is a really important feeling. And for me, it took a long time to get to a place where I really feel like I'm making my dad proud now, and it's such a blessing. And so, you never really grow too old to want, um, love and acceptance and pride from your own father.
That's true. And Angela, I'm sure for you, you must feel someone like me being very lucky that I grew up with my dad like you, and my life is still, my dad was able to help me through the year, the beginning of, racing, which, when he started racing in France, I was 18 years old. You cannot drive over there on, real race cars, I guess. Until you are 18 years old, you have to have a regular driver's license, which is kind of strange. But
Yeah.
and for sure, my dad was very important to me, and I think every dad is important to every race car driver.
Yeah.
I don't think you can actually start in racing without having the support of your family. I think and it reminds me of my business partner Ted Warner. He actually wanted to race. Ted did some racing, but as I understand, he didn't have the support from his parents. And I think it takes a lot of dedication, not only from yourself as a driver, but everybody around you. And it's not an easy sport, not easy at all. So, but
That's right.
but
Even just me kind of coming into the scene 40 years later, it's kind of weird for some people. They're thinking, "What? Where have you been?" But it really took me that long just to get my stuff together so I could represent my father properly, and so that I could possibly handle it properly, because I hadn't been doing so well in the past. But then getting in touch with my dad's fans and people in the racing community, as we know, is such a wonderful group of people. The support that I'm getting from my dad's fans and all my new friends, and the positive reinforcement, boy, it really just keeps you going. It really keeps you going. You got to stick with those people that believe in what you're doing, and put fire under your feet for you, not the ones that bring you down. And there are people like that in the world. We just got to ditch them.
yeah, absolutely, I agree. And Angela, I think I can feel how proud you are from what your dad did. But I think your dad would be very proud of yourself, what you do and everything. So it's funny. I didn't know anything about your dad, Angela. It's really thanks to Ted,
Yeah.
Ted Warner, my business partner, who I learned everything about your dad.
Yeah.
I'm totally amazed. It's evidently was someone that had, for sure, a huge career in front of him.
Yeah.
And it really reminds me of another driver who also was someone who was about to become big in Formula One racing at the very same time. His name was Francois Sever, and you probably don't know him, Angela. But Francois Sever probably was going to be the next Formula One world champion. He was driving with Jackie Stewart, and actually had a tragic accident the same year as your dad. Imagine that. For him, it was the accident took place in Watkins Glen in America. But anyways, yeah, it's just amazing. Same kind of people, really same, very good-looking guys, and
Yeah.
really. When I
What is
think
that?
about, I learned about your dad. I thought, well, that's exactly like Francois Sever. What an amazing, two amazing drivers who unfortunately did not stay, long enough on the, so.
And
yeah.
it is tragic, but what we are doing is celebrating these guys as the heroes that they are. At a certain point,
Absolutely.
you mourn, and then at a certain point, you need to stop mourning and really remember them for who they are. I know these people, they don't want to see us look down on us and we're all depressed because
No.
of things. They want us to continue and talk about what they did do, all their accomplishments, and never be forgotten. And my dad will never be forgotten. Francois will never be forgotten. All the best.
Yep.
And I think that the Fatals will always have some sort of heroic status in the community, because we know that they gave their lives doing what they loved, and also making the sport safer for the future. Right.
That is very true. That's very true. When you race, even today, Angela, Indy cars, the Indy 500. You came to the Indy 500 3 years ago, first time.
14.
I think you realize that it is a very dangerous event. I mean, there's no question when you drive a car at 200 plus miles per hour with 32 other cars around you. It is never going to be safe, but definitely it is a lot safer today than it was back then. There's no question about that, but still we will see other tragedies. That's the way it is. It's part of the sport, and that is something we accept as drivers.
Right.
When you take the wheel, you get in that car. It's your choice. It's you don't have to do it, and sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes when you drive an Indy car, like I remember myself, I didn't feel good some days. I mean, before the race, I will say I was concerned. Maybe I didn't trust my car. And I was a little bit scared about, starting a race. And I think everybody has the same thing. Maybe not every driver will admit this reality, but I think, driving an Indy car is a very serious business, even today. So I really have so much respect for the drivers today, like before. I mean, I think it's an amazing event.
And didn't you go from Formula One with a little less horsepower straight to IndyCar with close to 1,000 horsepower? Right in the beginning. Right. I mean, you just jumped on it. I mean, and you upped yourself 600-700 horsepower for IndyCar, and you pulled it off. You did so well. How did that feel? How did that feel? That first, full fast run with all that horsepower at the Indy track. I mean, you must have just been in heaven, but a focused heaven.
That for sure. Angela, that's a good point. When I came to Indy, that's what you were talking about. First of all, the way I came to Indy was kind of unusual. It was not my goal to come to race in Indy. I was still, at the time, I was 23 years old. I was still dreaming of becoming a Formula One driver one day, and so that was my goal, to be in Formula One and keep trying that path. And then in the winter of 92 and 93, I got a call to ask me, basically to offer me the opportunity to drive in the Indy 500, and I basically had to say yes or no, and I actually said yes, which was a big gamble because I had to give up my other opportunities in Europe, which were to continue my Formula One dreams. But then when somebody calls you and say, hey, would you like to drive in Indy, you're like, well, of course, for you it's obvious, Angela, but for me at the time, I didn't have much knowledge about Indy. We did not have the race on TV and like we do today. And so there was no really French driver or European drivers that I would follow in IndyCar. But anyways, I came, at the time I was driving Formula 3 cars. And basically to Formula 1, to make it very simple, we had Formula Renault in France, which is equivalent to Formula Ford. And then you have the Formula 3, that's kind of like Pro Mazda, if you want, for IndyCar. Mm-hmm. And then we had Formula 2, which was kind of like Indy Lights. And then Formula 1, right, which is like IndyCar. And so I was at the level of Formula 3. Formula 3 was represented in every country in Europe. Mm-hmm. And it was very, very important for a driver to do very well at that level, to have a chance to move up. And I was doing very well in Formula 3, winning races and things. So you see, I had the opportunity to go to Formula 2, which, by the way, was called something else. It was called Formula 3000, just to confuse people. Yeah. We always like to do that in racing. But anyways, I had to decide, and the odds for me to do well in Indy in 93 were very low, very, very low. Because, like you said, my experience driving a race car, a Formula 3 car at the time was about 200 horsepower.
Yeah.
Okay, and so basically, I had to go to Indy. Basically, I was offered to drive in Indy, a car that at the time in '93 the cars were producing about close to 900 horsepower in qualifying. So just to show you, 200 horsepower, 900 horsepower, that's a big difference. And basically, the other thing, which was probably most important, is that I had no experience driving on ovals. I've never driven a car on an oval before. And to make things even worse, I didn't speak a word of English. So,
But you did
so you
it.
can see the challenge. So the person who actually gave me the opportunity, I can say his name is Emmanuel Lupe, and he's a French gentleman who actually still lives here in the USA. And I'm still in good terms with Emmanuel. We talk regularly, and that was his call to take me to Indy. And I think I would never have done that decision to take a guy like me with no experience.
Right. Well, the sun was shining on you that day, the stars aligned for you. That's what I'm always going to say is that, it doesn't always take all the money or all the connections or all of that to get there. A lot of stars have to line up for you to get there. So I think it was, part of your big plan that you just were around that track running it. And I think it's, it is important to say that you went from 200 horsepower to 900 horsepower on an oval for the first time. So I can only imagine what your first couple of turns must have been like. You're kind of in a wormhole situation. That's really fast. When you got out of your first oval run in an 900 HP car, how did you feel when you first stepped out in that car?
But first, back then, Angela, it was a long deal. I mean, I arrived in the late April, and there was a rookie test, and then you had to do a week of testing, and then there was first weekend of qualifying, and then again another week of testing, and then the second weekend of qualifying, and then a week after that was the race. So you can see it was a huge, long process, which was also something new for me, because for me a race weekend is,
you go,
3 days and you're done with it.
Yeah.
And so basically the rookie test was the first time I drove that car, Angela. And the rookie test, they were doing it very carefully at the time, because they were doing a very good job. They had many drivers at the time. They had many more drivers than what they could accept for the race. So you ended up with quite a few rookie drivers, not as many as we have today, I think. And so it was very important, especially someone like me, to make sure that I would basically do the rookie test the way everyone was doing it. And you really had to do like step by step. You would have to. I forgot the speed, but I think it was, you had to prove that you could drive the car at maybe 195 miles per hour for like 10 laps, and then you would move up to 200 miles an hour for another 10 laps, and then you would go 205. So, and again, I'm not exactly sure if those were the speeds,
right.
But I mean, to tell you the truth, to tell you how it feels like, when I got in the car and they said, okay, you're going to do your first rookie phase, basically, and like I said, maybe it was 190, it was maybe not 195, but just to maintain those 10 laps at 195, I was like, my gosh,
what have I done?
I'm never gonna make this race. There's no way. Because and I'm so glad that back then, especially given the lack of experience that I had, I mean, I really needed all that time. So I had a lot of time to get used to it. And I had a good team. My team was a French team, but it actually contracted with a regular IndyCar team at the time called Dick Simon Racing. Dick Simon was a very well-known name in IndyCar, and so basically I was part of that team, Angela. So there were other drivers in the team with me, like Raoul Boesel, Jimmy Vasser, Scott Brighton, and Hiro Matsushita, I think. And so, so I had other drivers, which was very helpful for me, because my car was pretty much set up already, you see. So they already. But if you show up with a team with only one driver and a brand new team with no background, nothing, I mean, you're never going to make it. So I was actually, I had a great team. I really was surrounded with good people. It was very, very well organized, and you get up to speed, and like I said, at 195 you feel like it's too fast, and then you end up able to cruise at 220, basically, maybe exaggerate a little bit, but things slow down in your brain, and it's not a problem anymore. But of course you have to be aware of that those speeds all the time, and always respect, your car and everything. And as soon as you feel something, you have to make a change. It's not like a road course where you can compensate. Nobody can control a car going sideways at more than 200 miles an hour. No,
Right.
even the best driver in the world. So you have
Right.
to always be very, very aware of that. So.
Yeah. If it's okay with you, I'm so sorry. I need to take a really quick break. If you
Yes.
don't mind. Just hold the line, Stephan, and we've got so much more fun things to talk about. So glad you're here. We'll be right back with good news with Angela Savage on Vegas All Net Radio.
Welcome back. Let's get back on the path to happiness. Once again, here's Angela Savage.
Good morning and welcome back to Good News with Angela Savage. We're talking to Stephan Gregoire, one of my favorite IndyCar drivers. Are you still there, Stephan?
Absolutely, Angela. I'm with you. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for waiting. I appreciate that.
Welcome.
Nigel Mansell was the defending Formula One champion in 1993 and was racing in the IndyCar Series your rookie year at Indy. All of the focus was on him. What was it like when you became the fastest rookie qualifier and the 7th fastest qualifier overall?
Well, that's an amazing question, Angela. Like I said, my dream was to make it to Formula One, and I knew all those drivers by name. Nigel Mansell, Nelson Piquet. Those names were huge names, like big heroes for me, right? And in 1993, when I came to Indy, actually the Formula One world champion from '92 decided to not stay in Formula One, which is absolutely unusual and unheard of. And so that was Nigel Mansell. He came to America. Everybody was like, "Wow,
What? Yeah.
So that doesn't make any sense." I remember he was driving for Renault, and Renault was devastated that Mansell was making the decision to go and race in America. So when I came to America to do the Indy 500, like I said, the race Indy 500 was not on TV before, but thanks to Mansell, the race was broadcast live in France. Not because of me, of course, but because of him being in the race. And imagine what that did to me. All of a sudden, everybody wanted to see what Indy, wanted to watch the race.
Yeah.
And because of Mansell, and I happened to be in the race, someone who nobody knew, of course, and that really did a huge effect for me, especially since I was able to qualify better than anyone could expect, including myself, by the way.
Yeah, all right. You surprised yourself.
I qualified 7th fastest, which is crazy. So
here you
that
are,
was just unbelievable.
Out on the track, beating, your heroes from back home.
Yeah.
Basically, right?
Well, exactly. I mean, it's like, Nigel Mansell, so like I said, you have to do a rookie test. So you have to do, the rookie orientation has special meetings, okay? So you go to a driver's meeting only for rookie, new drivers, basically. And so Nigel Mansell, to me, is not a rookie. But the rule is the rule in America, And
and IndyCar is different.
He had to do it. He was in the meetings. And so I was sitting in those meetings next to him, the reigning Formula One world champion, right there, right next to me. And I was also next to, by the way, Nelson Piquet, who was 3 times a world champion in Formula One before. I mean, it was just like, I didn't know if it was actually happening, or was I dreaming sometimes?
Very surreal, I bet.
Yeah, no, it was just amazing for
but
sure.
I hope that you realized at that time that these are not only your heroes, but they're now your peers. right?
Yeah,
I mean, you
you're
must
right.
have
Yeah,
been
you
like,
have to race. Yeah, and it's interesting when you race in a car, you realize that as much as I was intimidated to be next to them outside of the car, once you get in your car, it doesn't matter. You treat everybody the same. You try to beat anybody, whoever they are.
yeah, well, yeah.
And yeah, I remember Emerson Fittipaldi, who actually won the race in '93. When we were doing the practice, there were actually two drivers who could talk to me, by the way, only two, because, like I said, I couldn't speak English.
Oh.
And so two drivers only were able to speak French. One of them was actually your guest from last week, Ari Leindyke.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so I've always liked Ari, respect him for many, many reasons, but also because he speaks French. He didn't tell you that. And also Emerson Fittipaldi was also speaking French. And one time I remember Emerson coming to me, very nice, and he knew exactly what background I was. I was coming from Formula 3. I was the youngest driver in '93, and he said, "Well, Stephan, when you pass someone, I saw you pass me. I was able to pass Emerson during practice, I guess." And he said, "Well, the way you do it, you have to do this and that because the speeds are too great. It's very dangerous here." So, but he was basically
mentoring.
Instead of giving me a hard time and say, "What are you doing? You don't know what you're doing. It's crazy." He was really trying to explain to me in a very respectful manner. So I was just amazed. So, yeah,
that makes
was
me
a special year.
Want to talk just a tiny bit about positive reinforcement versus negative reinforcement and how much farther that can take a person, rather than saying, "You're terrible. What are you doing?" Blah, blah, blah. That might work for some people, but for me, a little bit of positivity, and I already know I messed up, but if you're just nice to me about it, I can be so much more receptive with positive reinforcement rather than negative reinforcement, and I think that definitely the world needs a lot more of that these days.
That is right. And also I think Emerson was older than me quite a bit, of course, could probably have been my dad, I guess. And I think he was talking to me like a son almost, and I actually worried about me. I mean, being in this amazing, dangerous race for the first time and being so young and with the little experience that I had, that's probably also why he was really. I was really amazed by that, and so yeah.
Yeah, that's really touching. Yeah. I mean, if Emerson Fittipaldi is taking you under your wing, something's right in your universe. There's nothing wrong with that.
And just to tell you another story that I think everybody will enjoy. When you do your rookie test, actually before you do your rookie test, you have to go around the track with an older driver, someone who had been a driver before. Anyways, so they tell me, "Okay, Stephan, hop in that car, and Rick is going to drive you around the track." So I'm like, "Okay, Rick, whatever." I have no idea who Rick is. And so I do the laps, and the gentleman is evidently driving very well. He's showing me the line in a Chevy Camaro, the pace car at the time, and he was doing pretty fast, pretty good. I felt very comfortable with him. I don't like to be a passenger, but I guess with this guy, I felt pretty good. Right. And so he's showing me the line, basically. That's the first thing you do as a rookie, I guess. And then we come back to the pits. We're done. We do maybe 4 laps. I'm not sure. And so, anyways, I get out of the car. "Thank you, sir. I appreciate it." Again, my English was not very good. And so, and then somebody tells me, "Well, how did it feel to drive with Rick Mears?" I'm like, Rick Mears? You mean
that's who that was?
Was
it
Rick Mears? Oh, I didn't know. So I didn't even know that was actually Rick Mears. So just to show you how ignorant I was, and so that's pretty crazy.
Well, I can relate to that too because I'm really late to the scene of IndyCar. I mean, I didn't get here till I was 40 years old because I couldn't before, and now with the support of all my new friends and my dad's fans and stuff, I'm really, really getting into it. And sometimes I feel like I'm in kindergarten because I'm just trying to absorb as much knowledge as fast as I can, but it's so wonderful. I don't know how to explain how for instance, yesterday I was so excited to watch the race in St. Petersburg, and we didn't miss it. And I'm talking on social media and texting with friends during the race, and I really feel like I've become one of the biggest IndyCar fans. And that's all I ever really wanted. I feel like I should be able to be a fan, since my dad gave his life for the sport, but it was so hard. But now I feel like I can open up my heart. The pain, we worked through that, and now I can be like IndyCar's #1 fan, and just being a part of it is such a fulfilling feeling, and having the racing community accept me, even though I'm a little bit late. It's such a treasure for me to finally be able to be an IndyCar fan. And it's in my bones, and we all know once it's in there, you can't get rid of it. It's an addiction. So I'm just excited to be on the scene at all. I feel
and
so lucky.
I think, Angela, it's a good time to become a new IndyCar fan. I think of course, you've been an IndyCar fan for the last few years, but I think this year, of course, with the 100 running of the Indy 500, I think it's going to be a very special year. And also, I think the level of racing, the competitiveness of this series is like I've never seen before. I mean, the level, the quality of the drivers and the teams and everything is amazing. And I know that some older fans don't, miss the old days. I know that because there was more, variety in different type of noise engines, and the cars were very different. But when it comes to the quality of racing and the quality of those drivers today, it's just amazing. When you saw the qualifying in St. Pete, like you said, you go from pole position to the last place. It's a very, very small time, and so it tells you how competitive the series is. You saw Connor Daly yesterday was second at one time
he was
during
holding
the race.
that second too.
And the leaders could hardly, he was able to run with the leaders, the top team, Penske.
Yeah, he's running with the Penske cars, holding his own.
Indeed, this year is going to be amazing.
I agree, and I think there's a lot of excitement around it. Maybe it's because of the 100th, but I just think that this is going to be the one, not to miss. And then we got to make sure that people still come after the 100th. We don't want it to be like, woo, the 100th, and then it kind of calms down. So we got to make sure that it's still fun and exciting. Excuse me, after the big 100 thing, which of course it will be. It's fun. It was so fun watching the race yesterday in the streets and stuff. I loved it. It wasn't until after your IndyCar career in 2003 that you raced at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in your native France. What was it like to finally get a chance to race in that famous race in your home country after so many years racing in America?
Well, that's a great question, Angela. It was very special. In fact, because I didn't do it until after I came to America. And the reason is, when you are born in a country like France, like I was, and you follow, let's say, the 24 Hours of Le Mans or the Tour de France, for example, the bicycle race, it's pretty big, but you don't realize how big it is until you get out of the country. Like when I moved to America, then it's only then that I thought, oh my gosh, but Le Mans, everybody knows Le Mans. And for me, for some reason, being from a small country like France, which is, relatively small, I just didn't understand how big this race was. And I really didn't care much about Le Mans before I came to America. So when I finally was able to drive at Le Mans, which was in 2003 for my first Le Mans, I really enjoyed it so much that I'm glad I did it so late.
Well, yeah, wow, Le Mans, big deal. Tell us about your company, Miles Ahead, and how it got started.
Yes, well, Miles Ahead is a good story. It's special to me. Of course, I have a business partner, Ted Warner. But basically, when was back in 2005, I was still racing. I stopped racing in 2010, but in 2005, I had some good friends working at, still do, I had a friend of mine who was in charge at the Speedway, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and one time I went to see him and we spoke, and I said, have you guys? Why don't you guys have a driving school, or have you ever thought about doing a driving school? And so I really asked that question one time in 2005, and my friend said, well, yes and no, but not really. But I said, would you be? I mean, you should have a driving school. I said, look, you have a beautiful racetrack, the Formula One track since '99 when they built it for Formula One. I said, that's a shame not to use that track more often, other than just during those events. I think we should do a driving school. And he said, well, okay, well, that sounds good. So basically, that opened the opportunity for the idea, Angela. But it was very hard to get a yes, a definite yes about let's do it. It took actually 5 years, believe it or not. So after 5 years, in 2010, we got the green light, Ted and I, from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to do a driving school, but not the one we were looking for. The Speedway, we wanted to do a performance driving school, with me. Corvette, we thought it would have to be a Chevy for sure, because Chevy is such a big brand and a big partner for Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But no, and so they said, well, how about you give us a proposal to do a teen driving school, so basically safety for young drivers. So Ted and I, we didn't think about doing that, but then we started to study and realized that there was a huge need for training young drivers. When you look at the demographics, the statistics, and you see how many accidents teen drivers are involved in, it's really frightening. And so then we realized we became very interested to build a program around that concept of helping young drivers. So we started as the teen. We call it the Teen Driving Intensive. And so we did that back in 2001. We had our first program, and obviously, like I said, we thought we would have to use a Chevy car at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but then we were told that no, not really, and so we were invited to find our own car manufacturer, and we were able to get Mini USA on board the program. So we were very, very lucky and we still are representing Mini USA, and so this is we think the best car that we didn't think about to have. The car is excellent to teach young drivers because it's not too powerful, but yet it's an amazing car when it comes to doing a performance program. You remember, Angela, you came to our program last year,
that was a dream.
That Mini, I'm sure you were very impressed. People don't expect the Mini to perform so well on a racetrack. When you look at the numbers, people always think, well, how good is it from 0 to 60? Everybody's always focused on straightaway speed. Of course, the Mini may not be the most impressive car from 0 to 60, but when it comes to braking and when it comes to making a corner, handling, the car is just unbelievable. And I think, if I remember, you, Angela, drove. You came, it was wet, I think. It was a rainy day.
Pouring rain, which I thought was funny. But I did it, and I really, in the rain, you have to put your faith in the car, and the Mini Cooper drives like it's on rails. It really, I love it's all stealth and kind of small, so you don't have this boat end worried about it at the back, and it just really hugs the road, and that was really one of the best days of my life. And having my son Chance out there hanging out with your son, what's his name again?
Romeo, yeah.
Romeo, what a little doll he was, driving us around in the golf cart. I noticed you were giving him golf cart training lessons, driving already, too. That was just a really special day. I want to thank you again, and Ted Warner again, for letting me be a part of that program, and I sure hope I get to do it again, because, boy, was that fun. Let's see. How can people find out more about Miles Ahead and your driving programs?
Well, the best way to find out about our program is to go to our website. It's bmilesahead.net. Be or not to be. Letter B, letter E, milesahead.net. And that's where the best way to find information. And of course, we like I said, we started as a teen driving program, Angela, and then we offered a performance program from 2013. So we were a teen driving program only from 2011 to 2012. And then the Indianapolis Motor Speedway allowed us to finally do what we always wanted to do from day one, which is offer a performance program. And Minnie was obviously very happy about that as well. And people have enjoyed that very much until last year, basically 2015. And in 2016, we are basically offering a new type of experience. It will not be a driving school like we used to do it anymore. It will be more like a driving experience. It's going to be a fun kind of autocross. So we're calling it Hypercross.
Hypercross.
Yeah.
I like that.
So it's a pretty new thing. Nobody knows about it, so you're probably the first one to know, Angela. So,
yeah, we're talking about the new Hypercross program at Miles Ahead at IMS. We're going to be hearing more and more about that at bmilesahead.net. Please keep us informed of all the new stuff. We're actually getting to the end of our hour here. I knew talking with you for an hour would go by like a flash. So I wanted to just ask, how's your wife? How's Virginie?
Very good. Thank you very much, Angela. Everybody's doing really well. Our 3 kids are doing good. Everybody's in school right now. And so I'm the only lucky one to be at home.
That is pretty lucky. Home is where the home is.
That's right.
I have met your wife, and boy, is she just a beautiful, lovely lady. And I do want to mention that when you came at 20 years old with speaking no English, she was standing next to you at 19-year-old as your interpreter. Is that correct?
You're right.
Yeah. So
that is true, because Virginie, my wife, is a very well-educated lady and pretty smart lady. And yes, that was I was very lucky to have Virginie next to me because she was fluent in English from the very beginning. So that was a huge help for sure, yes.
Well, your whole family is just so lovely. I hope that we get to have dinner when I'm there for the 100th. Will we all get to
should. I would love that. Absolutely.
Let's really shoot for a nice dinner with all of us, so we can. I definitely want to be in touch and see you while I'm there. I wouldn't miss it.
Absolutely, I'd be very happy to see you. It will be soon. The month of May is just around the corner, Angela.
76 days till the 100th running of the 500, and I can't wait. I may show up early just because I can't wait. The suspense is killing me. Okay, well, I hope that we can get you on the show again sometime soon, because I have a ton more questions to ask you. But of course, we get into this lovely conversations. One thing that I do want to get out before we run out of time, part of my show is about overcoming difficulties in life. Have you ever had a time in your life when you were depressed, or you felt hopeless or frustrated? And how did you overcome that? And what do you do on a daily basis to hold your peace and keep your stress levels at bay?
Well, I definitely have had some low times, and as a race car driver, you know the worst time, and I cannot think of one specific time, Angela, but I can tell you I had many times where I didn't feel very good, and my mental was low, and I didn't see a good future, and everything especially happens during the off season, because as a race car driver you have to always regroup, unless you are very lucky to have a long-term contract with your team. But typically many race car drivers, the off season is always kind of an unknown. You don't really know what the next season will be like. I'm thinking, like, I'll give you an example. You can definitely understand, like Gabi Chavez is an unbelievable driver who's also a Miles Ahead instructor. And Gabi, as we speak, he doesn't know, for sure what his driving is going to be like. For sure he knows he was not in St. Pete yesterday, which was to me a big shame, because he should be in the series.
He should be in the series. Yes. He's one of my favorites. I think he's one of the fan favorites, and I personally feel like there's something missing without Gabi Chavez there. So please, let's try and get him in a car. Love that guy. What a nice guy. And like you said, he was my instructor at IMS, so that was a real special thing. Pippa Mann too, and yourself. Oh my goodness.
Absolutely. Just like Connor Daly, Connor needs to be in the series. is a young, very, very, very strong, very fast driver. But a guy like Gabi definitely should be as well. Was the Indy Light champion and did so well last year. Was the rookie
of the year.
I mean,
if the rookie of the year can't go, I don't know. Maybe there's some adjustments to be made.
Yeah, I know.
But that's just me.
But just to short, to tell you that those times you deal with these times, with these very difficult times as a driver regularly, and my therapy is always to exercise every day. I'm a very big believer in exercising daily.
Yeah.
I still do.
Yeah.
It is my it's my therapy.
It helps so much. It gets all the stuff out.
And I think it's so important to train. And I've always done it because to be fit for the sport, but I continue doing it, and I guess that's the way I stay. I keep my mental high even when I have a hard time.
Oh, well, good for you. Thank you so much for coming on my show today, Stephan. Wow, I just love speaking with you. I consider you a friend. Can't wait to see the family. I'll see you in about 70 days. I want to remind everybody to please like my page, Good News with Angela Savage, on Facebook. Also, follow me on Twitter at Savage42 Inc. And I'm going to play a song that Stephan wanted me to play. We're all still feeling the loss of David Bowie. What a great guy. I shed a tear for him just the other day. So with thanks again, Stephan, for being on. And with no further ado, I'm going to play David Bowie, Let's Dance.
To the song they play